It's Monday, 8th of November 2021. Greetings from Rwanda's capital, Kigali. This is what makes our top stories tonight. Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Dr. Vincent Biruta, has commented the support the People's Republic of China has provided to Rwanda through different developmental projects over the last 50 years of diplomatic relations. People in Kigali have been complaining about rising gas prices, and officials at the Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Authority, RURA, says they are currently engaged in talks with all concerned parties to find lasting solutions to the problem. A very good evening and welcome to Rwanda Television News with me, Sam Kalisa. Kicking it off, Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Dr. Vincent Biruta, has commended the support the People's Republic of China has provided to Rwanda through different developmental projects over the last 50 years of diplomatic relations. Serge Nhore kickstarts tonight's bulletin with this report.
Rwanda and China collaborate in different sectors for development, namely health, education, agriculture, ICT and infrastructure, such as the expansion of the 13.8 kilometer Sonatip-Gahanga-Akagera highway at a cost of around 65 billion Rwandan francs, and other roads, as well as 200 deep water wells built in local communities across the country at a cost of more than 7 billion Rwandan francs. Honestly, this road is very useful to us because it is solving the problem of the traffic jams that used to be rampant here. These Chinese contractors are helping us to modernize the city and achieve faster development, while providing employment as well, because many people work here as builders with their many assistants. This is very good because the Chinese helped us to get clean water, which will help improve our social welfare and health. During a ceremony on Monday to mark the 50th anniversary of Rwandan-Chinese diplomatic ties, Rwanda's Minister of Foreign Affairs and International Cooperation, Dr. Vincent Biruta, commended the support the People's Republic of China has provided to Rwanda over the decades.
ICT, mining, air transport, education and capacity building, health, trade, tourism, agriculture, defense and security, to name a few. Since November 12, 1971, and more particularly after the 1994 genocide against the Tutsi in Rwanda, we have worked hand in hand to strategically develop our political and socio-economic ties. China currently ranks among the top largest investors in Rwanda, which has created thousands of jobs in different sectors.
On his part, China's ambassador in Rwanda noted that the bilateral cooperation between both countries has been growing.
Our economic and trade cooperation has got closer. China is proud to be Rwanda's largest trading partner and the largest project contractor. The bilateral trade volume in 2020 reached $321 million against the impact of COVID-19. A large number of infrastructure facilities that China aided and contracted to build gave strong impetus to Rwanda's economic and social development.
As of the end of 2020, Chinese investments in Rwanda were worth $191 million.
To health matters now, health workers who specialize in the treatment of diabetes advise people to improve their diet, as it can also be the root cause of the disease, which has serious effects on human health. We do have the report.
She is a primary school student living in Nduba sector of Gasabo district. She's among few young children with diabetes. Her mother, Francine Hakuzimana, says 2 of the 6 children she gave birth to have the disease.
My first kid who got the disease had suffered from marasmus way before, always weak and couldn't gain some weight. I went to Chibagabaga Hospital. They tested her. When results came out, and it was diabetes. They told me how to treat her, giving her all medications. The next year, my other child got infected.
This mother explains that living in this kind of life affects the well-being of the whole family.
Sometimes the crop season passes without even cultivating, because there are times when they are all sick. I sometimes go to the health center and they give me a transfer to the hospital. I don't even have all that they ask of me to feed them.
The Rwandan Diabetes Association says it has registered 2,050 children with type 1 diabetes ranging from 2 years old and upwards who are being monitored on a daily basis. The study by the Rwanda Biomedical Center RBC revealed that 3% of the population in Rwanda is diabetes positive. Dr. Simon Pierre Niyonsenga, the director of diabetes at the RBC, explains that there are many people that are unknowingly suffering from the disease, and this might worsen their health conditions. We urge everyone to come and get tested because a person may have diabetes without knowing it, and they will only find out when symptoms come out. We are less than 50% of people who should be under treatment, yet it is a disease that can cause blindness. It causes heart complications, whether with high blood pressure or heart failure. It causes kidney failure. There are times when a person's leg is supposed to be cut off due to a minor injury that couldn't heal. People should get tested at least once a year to know the state of their health. RBC says in this month of November, which has been dedicated for campaigns against diabetes, people over the age of 35 are allowed to go to health centers and get tested free of charge. According to RBC, diabetes treatment is expensive and that community-based health insurance, best known as Mutuelle de Santé, has not yet reached the level of buying diabetics a machine used to measure the amount of sugar in their body.
People in Kigali have been complaining about the rising gas prices, and officials at the Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Authority say they are currently engaged in talks with all concerned parties to find a lasting solution to the problem.
People who use gas for cooking say prices have steadily been increasing for the last 2 months, making life in the city more expensive. In the last few months, gas prices have been climbing, while our purchasing power has not. What is a person who earns 30,000 Rwandan francs per month supposed to cook with if gas prices are climbing this high? Yet they are telling us to stop using charcoal. It's hard enough to buy food without adding the burden of gas, and the government should do something to bring down the prices again. Even gas vendors are expressing worry over the rising prices. What should be done is the establishment of storage facilities that would allow for reserves of 3 to 4 months to help keep prices stable, even when they become volatile abroad. 2 months ago, we were getting 1 kilogram of gas for 1,000 Rwandan francs from the wholesalers. Now it is at 1,333 Rwandan francs. That means we're being forced to sell a 6 kilogram cylinder for 8,500 Rwandan francs instead of 6,000 Rwandan francs. And now our customers are complaining a lot. We are afraid they may just decide to go back to using charcoal, and we could lose them as our customers. Officials at the Rwanda Utilities Regulatory Authority say the rising gas prices are due to rising demand both here in Rwanda and globally. As more countries come out of lockdowns and economies go back into high gear, the demand for petroleum products and gas is rising. Also, many European countries are now going into winter, requiring more gas to warm their homes. Gas demand here in our own country has also been on the rise. Discussions are therefore underway to address the issue as well as other measures. We are working with other parties involved in the distribution of gas, and RURA has launched a feasibility study to establish set prices. The study is starting next week. Also, the government is going to build a gas depot able to hold 17,000 tons, enough to supply the entire country for up to 4 months. Rwandans use as much as 4,000 tons of gas for cooking per month, and a lack of major storage facilities has been identified as the reason local gas prices are vulnerable to fluctuating global demand.
Alexis Muhire, the incoming Auditor General, says he will strive to oversee the use of public funds in government programs that are meant to uplift people out of poverty. He made the remarks during a handover ceremony between him and Obadia Biraro, the outgoing Auditor General.
Last month of October, Alexis Muhire was appointed the Auditor General to replace Obadia Biraro, who has been in office for 10 years. During the handover ceremony, the outgoing Auditor General Obadia Biraro said that among what has been achieved and should be maintained by the agency include cooperation with other institutions in the fight against corruption.
Number one, East Africa.
Our first achievement was that our country came out on top in the fight against corruption, the first in the East African Community region and the fourth in Africa. That is a sign that the system is relevant and efficient in the country. Alexis Muhire, the incoming Auditor General, said he will focus on improving the audits of institutions with a focus on bettering the community. We will also continue to monitor government programs for the community, such as VUP, childcare programs, health programs, and others, so that every coin that the government invests will reach and benefit the community. The Office of the Auditor General has been acting for 23 years now, and over the 10 years, the agency has increased the number of institutions it audits, where in the last fiscal year 2019-2020, the office audited the use of the state budget by 87% rate.
A number of schools in Nyagatare district of Rwanda's eastern province say they are facing a problem of shortage of teachers, so much so there are some subjects that have not been taught since this current academic year began. Officials in the Ministry of Education say new teachers have been found to fill spots and the problem should be solved as soon as possible.
The problem is not in Nyagatare alone, with primary and secondary schools across the country saying they are facing teacher shortages, so much so even students are worried. We don't study Kinyarwanda, and the problem is that we will still have to sit for it in the national exams. We want them to find us a Kinyarwanda teacher so that we can catch up. Schools have been trying to hire temporary teachers while they wait for education authorities like the Rwanda Basic Education Board and the Ministry of Education to send them permanent ones. But that has also meant having to increase the workload on the ones they do have. I used to teach 40 hours a week. Now they are 45. And the problem with that is that I am not able to test the students and follow up on each one as I should. There are just too many. We are asking REP to send us more teachers. And that was the arrangement we had when we came to teach here. We are also aware that the school's administration has made a formal request. During a recent visit to the district, the Minister of State in the Ministry of Education in charge of primary and secondary education explained that the matter is close to being resolved. The problem arose after the number of classrooms was increased significantly, and the need for more teachers also became apparent. That resulted in the recruitment process for teachers taking longer, but it is now done. All that is left now is for the placement process, and that will soon also be done, resolving the problem. Across the country, reports indicate that a deficit of more than 11,000 teachers has been felt. While this report was being prepared, the Rwanda Basic Education Board sent out a tweet calling on all people who applied for teaching and administrative positions in schools and passed to access their accounts through the Ministry of Public Service and Labour system to confirm their appointments.
20 RDF officers have begun a 2-week training on becoming trainers to prepare other soldiers and personnel for international peacekeeping missions. The training is being conducted at the Rwanda Peace Academy in Musanze district of the northern province of Rwanda.
The training was organized by the Rwanda Peace Academy in collaboration with the Africa branch of the British Peace Support Team, and the significance of the training was emphasized by the director of the academy, retired Colonel Gilles Rutarimara. After they leave this place, apart from having the knowledge they need to serve as military observers when the need arises, they will also have the capacity to train others. That will give the RDF the capacity to use its own personnel to conduct such trainings instead of always having to source such trainers from elsewhere, and yet we have Rwandans right here that can do it. The director also commented on the sort of work military observers are expected to carry out. When we speak of observers, we must remember that they are deployed in places where treaties have been signed and those agreements are not always respected, and even atrocities may be committed. These observers are therefore supposed to collect information and submit reports so that things can be brought back on track. Officials from the British Peace Support Team have commended the level of cooperation that exists between their team and the RDF and the importance of this latest training.
So the British Peace Support Team is part of the British Army, and we are extremely proud of the relationship we have with the Rwandan Defence Forces. And we have been supporting in many different ways, whether that's been sending senior officers back to the UK for training at the Advanced Command and Staff Course, or potential young officers going back to train at our world-known Sandhurst Training Centre. But here today, we are sponsoring for the UN Military Observers Course a trainer-trainer package. So building capacity in the RDF to be able to deliver this course themselves.
The RDF officers being trained have also welcomed the opportunity to acquire this type of knowledge and soon be able to pass it on. The British Peace Support Team has been working with the RDF since 2013 and is based in Nairobi, Kenya.
To sports matters now. Rwanda will tomorrow receive the Queen's Baton ahead of the Birmingham 2022 Commonwealth Games for 3-day national relay. The Queen's Baton is expected to arrive at Kigali International Airport on Tuesday from Uganda, and it will spend 3 days in Rwanda before being handed over to Tanzania. The baton will be taken to the Kigali Genocide Memorial, Nyandungu Urban Wetland Ecotourism Park, Lycée de Kigali, Gahanga Cricket Stadium, among other places. The Queen's Baton Relay is being taken to different destinations around the world as part of the Commonwealth Games traditions. Earlier today, my colleague Ethan Tashobia sat for an interview with Omar Dare, the British High Commissioner to Rwanda, to expound more about the tradition of the Queen's Baton and what it means for Rwanda.
British High Commissioner to Rwanda, Omar Dare, many thanks for finding time to speak to RwandaTV.
Thank you.
The Queen's Baton is arriving in the country this very week for the so-called the Queen's Baton Relay. If you could tell us how significant, what makes this baton such a special thing?
Well, the Queen's Baton Relay is a great tradition of the Commonwealth Games, which will be hosted in Birmingham next summer. And the baton symbolises the links between all the Commonwealth family. So it is travelling between all 72 countries and territories of the Commonwealth with a message inside from Her Majesty the Queen, which will be read out at the end of the relay. But it's a great reminder of all the things that connect the Commonwealth together, all our shared values of human rights, democracy, our love of sports. So I think it's something that really brings us all together.
Rwanda becomes the 10th country to host the Queen's Baton in this particular rally this year, but also Rwanda is expected to host the CHOGM. So how significant is this?
Yes, I think it makes it particularly special this year because next year when the Commonwealth Games are happening in July, we also expect that CHOGM will have already happened, hopefully by then. And I think the two events together really bind the UK and Rwanda in our commitment to the Commonwealth. So I think this year we want even more attention on the Queen's Baton here in Rwanda to show that we're building up to the Commonwealth Games, but we're also building up to CHOGM.
How significant is the Commonwealth Games to the Rwandan athletes, but also in terms of Rwanda-UK bilateral relations?
Well, I'm really excited about seeing Rwandan athletes taking part in the Commonwealth Games next year, and that's both able-bodied athletes and also the disabled athletes. Because unlike the Olympics, which has two separate programs, the Commonwealth Games really integrates able-bodied and disabled events and competitors. So it's a really great way to promote inclusion and to show the way that we're all able to compete together. And so I think that makes it even more important this year. And I'm sure we'll see some good success from Rwandan athletes at the Commonwealth Games.
I know when it comes into the country, it makes rounds across different destinations in the country. If you could tell us some of the destinations and why those destinations were, selected.
Yes, I mean, one of the nice things about the baton relay is it also is an opportunity to show off the beauty of the country, of which there's a lot in Rwanda. It's going to several places. It's going to some schools. It's going to the cricket ground. It will be coming here to my residence. But the place that I'm most excited that it's going to is the Nyandungu wetlands, which is just a new development here in Rwanda, which shows the importance of protecting our natural environment and climate. And so I think it's a great time with the COP summit happening in Glasgow at the same time to bring together sporting objectives and nature-based objectives too, to show how much we're doing in Rwanda on this.
You mentioned that it's also going to be highlighting, the Queen's Baton is going to be highlighting the climate conference that is also happening, but also what Rwanda is doing together with the UK. Recently, I think last week, Rwanda was selected among the 5 pioneer countries to benefit in the $100 US, I think, fund. If you could tell us more about that and what it means to Rwanda's climate resilience strategy.
Yes, I think it's a really important fund, actually. What it's looking at is how do we bring finance for climate work and for environmental programs in a more innovative way, and how do we make it easier for countries to access that finance, which I think is very important for Rwanda and a lot of other developing countries. And so these 5 pioneer countries have been picked to pilot that process, to have early access to that funding. And I think Rwanda was particularly picked because we have a really strong relationship with Rwanda on the climate portfolio, and we know that Rwanda can use this funding in a very effective and good way. So the UK has committed £100 million to this effort. We'll also be looking for other donor countries to commit money to this fund, and so I look forward to seeing how Rwanda is going to use that partnership and that funding in the future.
Okay, so as we conclude this, what should people know, the common citizens get to know, especially now that the Queen's Baton is coming?
Well, I think they should know that this is a symbol of how well connected we are, that as the Commonwealth we really are a family of nations, and that Rwanda and the UK are 2 really important parts of that. So I hope that this baton really symbolises our unity, our cooperation and our friendship.
Amalda, the British High Commissioner to Rwanda. Many thanks for your time.
Thank you very much.
I appreciate it.
The employees of the Rwanda Investigation Bureau, RIB, have noted that the training to help them sharpen their skills concerning the laws governing the country helps them to serve the general public even better. Up to 60 employees of the Bureau have, for the last 5 days, been in Muhanga district of the southern province of Rwanda undergoing a training focusing on such matters. Officials at RIB noted that when investigators carry out their duties as they should. Other institutions in the justice sector are also able to carry out their duties, hence the need for such training. After completing the training, this first group of RIB employees will be able to train others at the institution. On behalf of the entire news and technical team that made it happen, thank you very much for being with us. My name stays Sam Kalisa, wishing you a good evening and a fruitful week ahead.